It is Sunday, June 2nd, and the Dong Report plus the Whiff Report. They are both back in your lives. I'm Matt Modi, and I'm going to have 3 home run predictions for you guys to lock in and 3 strikeout props for you guys to lock in as well. So on this beautiful Sunday, giving you 6 bangers to lock in. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer episode. I apologize for that. Of course, before we can get into those picks, we got to do a recap. So I'm going to go ahead and recap Friday and Saturday because I didn't have a video yesterday, but I still did give out bangers. And it was good on the dong department. Yesterday specifically, I got 2 dongs to mash. So we were up over 1 unit on home runs over the last 2 days. But unfortunately, whiffs were not great for us, especially yesterday. I mean, Friday we were up, albeit we were slightly up. We were up 0.2 units specifically on Friday. Yesterday was pretty brutal. I gave out 2 picks yesterday. I also laddered both of them. Both mainline plays lost, which obviously meant both ladder plays lost as well. And the issue was they were both pretty juiced. So honestly, I probably just only should have played the 2 ladder plays instead of the mainline plus ladder, but I didn't. And it was probably a mistake, obviously, considering how the 2 plays went. But at least we were profitable on home runs yesterday. Getting 2 dongs to mash was phenomenal. On the entire season, we are still a ways away from getting back in the green for home runs. Specifically, we are down over 14 units on the Dong Report on the year. Whiffs, we were on a crazy hot streak heading in to yesterday. I think we were in the green 5 straight days heading into yesterday. So it was only natural that we had a little bit of a down day. Granted, that was a lot of it of a down day. Luckily, we are still up on the season, up 1.58 units on the Whiff Report. Yesterday was brutal. Let's hope we can turn that around today. If you are new to my channel, I would appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button. And then for this specific video, if you could comment, would appreciate that as well. And then if you're interested in getting all of my plays sent to you for only $5 a month, check out the Dub Club. Link to that, I posted it here. It's also in the description and the pinned comment. That's enough of that. We got a ton of bangers to get to, so let's get right into it. We're going to start with the Dong Report, and we are going to start with the Nats versus Guardians game, and we are taking Jose Ramirez to hit a home run, plus 400 odds at FanDuel. So over the last 2 weeks, Ramirez has been on a pretty ridiculous run. It's now been 3 full games since he has last hit a home run, so that feels like the perfect time for him to change that today and for him to mash one for us. It's a really, really good game from a weather perspective for home runs to be hit. There's going to be 3 good weather games today for home runs, and we are actually having a play in all 3. So we are targeting good weather games in this one. For this specific game, there are decently heavy winds, nothing crazy, but decently heavy winds blowing out to right field. So a left-handed hitter that hits the ball in the air and that pulls the ball, that's going to be good for him. That's also really good for Jose Ramirez. He's a switch hitter, but he's going up against a right-handed pitcher, so he will be batting lefty today. So if he just gets the ball in the air and he pulls it a little bit, hopefully the wind will do the rest. And luckily, that's exactly what Jose Ramirez does. Now, his stats across the board are pretty ridiculous over the last 2 weeks, and we're going to get into his fly ball rate and his pull rate because that's what really drew me to him today. But over the last 2 weeks, he's hit 5 home runs. He's got an ISO rate of 50%, which is crazy. That's the 3rd highest ISO rate in the entire MLB over the last 2 weeks. ISO rate stands for isolated power, literally just measures power. For ISO rate, FanGraphs defines anything 25% and above considered excellent in terms of power. He's literally doubled that over the last 2 weeks with an ISO rate of 50%. It's a crazy good number. And then barrel rate, his is at 10.8%. That's in the great category, not excellent, but still good to go there. Barrel rate, it measures how frequently you hit the barrel of the bat when you make contact. So contact plus power, that equals home runs. That's why I look at those 2. And then further, even more, just looking at different advanced stats is what I'm trying to say here. His fly ball rate and his pull rate are phenomenal, as I hinted at a bunch of times earlier. His fly ball ratio is at 56.8%, and his pull rate is at 59.5%. Those are phenomenal numbers in general, right? Like anything that is 50% and above in both is considered excellent. He is 50% and above in both. Normally they have one or the other. He is excellent in both. And when you consider the fact that the wind is blowing out to right field, he gets the ball in the air, he pulls it a little bit, the wind is going to help. So really that's just it's really good for us, for him to hit a home run tonight. I will admit his power numbers are slightly better against left-handed pitching than they are against right-handed pitching, meaning he's a slightly more powerful batter when he's batting righty. But really, none of the stats, none of the splits between righties and lefties doesn't scare me off that much. His ISO rate against right-handed pitching, 27.4%. His ISO rate against lefties is just above 28%. So it's pretty small, the difference between the two. And the 27.4%, his ISO rate, is still considered excellent. Now, his hard hit rate is a little bit lower against right-handed pitching, and that's obviously an important number. Like, you want your players to hit the ball hard. And yes, his is lower against right-handed pitching, but his fly ball rate is significantly higher against righties as well. It's at 54.3%. Now, hard hits, again, are important, but at least for this one, we can expect him to get a fly ball at a frequent rate, and that's going to be good for this weather game. And then in terms of the pitching matchup, Jake Irving is pitching for the Nationals. If you just look at his stats, yeah, he is having a decent year. The Nats have a couple of young pitchers that are playing well, but he's significantly worse against batters that bat left-handed, which obviously this is going to be Jose Ramirez tonight. He allows a fly ball rate of 44.2%, a pull rate of 45.4%, and a hard hit rate of 35.1%, all against left-handed hitters. And all three of those numbers are significantly worse against left-handed batters than they are against right-handed batters. Like, all of his fly ball rate, pull rate, and hard hit rate are significantly lower against right-handed hitters. So pretty confident that Jose Ramirez is going to dong one for us. Let's hope he does. Next up, we're heading to the White Sox versus Brewers game, and we're taking Willy Adames to hit a home run, plus 450 odds. This one is best offered at BetRivers. Adames, I think this is his first time appearing on the Dong Report, so congratulations to him. He's got a really good opportunity to hit one today. Again, this is the second of the three good weather games, wind blowing out, and Milwaukee is in general just a hitter's park, so now, as long as the weather isn't horrible, generally this is going to be a good game in Milwaukee for home runs. And Milwaukee has a dome. Last I checked, according to Ballpark Pal, the roof will not be closed, so it will be open. So the weather and wind and stuff will impact the game. The biggest reason why we are on Willy Adames tonight is he's going up against Nick Nastrini of the White Sox, who is just a disaster of a pitcher. Nastrini is very, very bad. He's also a right-handed pitcher, and Willy Adames is significantly better against right-handed pitching. His ISO rate overall, not looking at any different splits, over the last 2 weeks is at 25.5%. That's still considered excellent. So that's still a good number. It's at the lower end of that, but still excellent. But against right-handed pitching specifically, over the last 2 weeks, it is up to 31.3%. Adames has hit 2 home runs over the last 2 weeks. Both of them were against right-handed pitching. Now, if you look at Willy Adames' entire season, admittedly, he doesn't have the traditional power numbers that we look for, but recently against right-handed pitching, he's been really good. His fly ball rate over the last 2 weeks against righties is 52.2%. That is significantly higher than his season average. And as I mentioned, the biggest reason why we're on Willy Adames for this game is because of the pitching matchup. He should have a couple at-bats against an absolutely mashable pitcher. Nick Nastrini is really, really bad, and he's specifically bad at allowing home runs, meaning he allows a lot of home runs. He allows a barrel rate of 9.1%. That's the 13th highest barrel rate allowed in the MLB of all qualified pitchers. If he had pitched enough to qualify, he got called up a little bit later, so he hasn't pitched enough innings to qualify. But his, again, barrel rate of 9.1 would be the 13th worst. But what's really been bad, and the issue that he's having, is he allows dudes to put the ball in the air at a ridiculous rate. His average launch angle, meaning when batters make contact with the ball, what is the angle of the ball as it leaves the bat? His average is at 22.6 degrees. That is horribly bad, literally would be the worst in the MLB of all qualified pitchers in terms of that launch angle. Now, I will admit he's bad both against right-handed and left-handed hitters. This is not really saying you want to target him against the certain handedness of the batter. He's bad against both. His fly ball rate specifically against righties is 55.3%. That's awful. His pull rate is 42.1%, which is also bad. All in all, he's just an absolutely mashable pitcher. And over the last 2 weeks, Adames has the best power numbers on the Brewers. So let's hope he comes through. Dong's one for us as our second play. Third up, final Dong play of the day. Rockies versus Dodgers game. I'm taking Will Smith, the Fresh Prince himself, to hit a home run at plus 480 odds at FanDuel. Another player, first time on the Dong Report this season, Congratulations to Will Smith. Let's hope he doesn't get kicked out by slapping people or anything crazy like that. But Will Smith has been awesome recently. Just really, really good. And again, third of 3 games that are good from a home run perspective. This one having wind blowing just straight out of the stadium, not blowing towards any direction, just blowing straight towards the outfield. Looking at Will Smith and his stats, he's hit 4 home runs over the last 2 weeks. He's got an ISO rate of 45.9%. That's the 4th highest ISO rate in the MLB over the last 2 weeks. Now, his barrel rate is just below the great category. It's just in the good category, but that is admittedly lower than what we look for, but all of his other numbers are awesome. And he's got an awesome matchup against the Rockies pitcher as well. Looking at his other stats that I like to look at, fly ball rate, 61.1%. Incredibly high fly ball rate, 9th highest in the MLB. Now, in terms of the pitcher he's going up against, Austin Gomber of the Rockies, if you just look at his ERA, that's it, no other stat. You would say, oh, he's a pretty good pitcher. He's having a good year, which is true. The ERA does show that he's having a good year, but if you look at all his advanced stats, it shows a pitcher that is due to hit some regression. Now, this is just in general. Like, his home run numbers are pretty bad, but just in general, like his expected ERA, his xFIP, his Sierra, all his expected numbers are pretty bad, showing that he should, again, hit some regression. Now, looking at the home run specific numbers, he allows a barrel rate of 9.6%. That's worse than Nick Nastrini, who I said stinks, and that is the 7th worst barrel rate allowed in the MLB. His average exit velocity allowed is at 89.1 miles per hour. That's not quite among the worst pitchers in baseball, but it's still a below average number. He allows a fly ball rate of 37.7%, which is closer to fine than anything. It's definitely not good, while allowing a pull rate of 48%. That is very bad. That is not a good number. But the reason why I like Will Smith in this matchup is that Austin Gomber is a left-handed pitcher, and Will Smith is significantly better against left-handed pitching. You really only want to target Will Smith against lefties. If he's going up against a righty, you're probably going to want to just leave him alone. His ISO rate against left-handed pitching is up to 37.7%. That is well within the excellent category, and that would be the highest ISO rate in the entire MLB if you just extrapolated that out to all batters. And in almost 1/3 of the at-bats, so he's seen significantly more righties. Again, 1/3 of the at-bats, 4 of his 9 home runs have come against left-handed pitching. His fly ball rate, 50% against lefties. Very good. His pull rate, 47.9% against lefties. Very good. Hard hit rate, 45.8% against lefties. Also very good. And unsurprisingly, all 3 of them significantly higher against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. So let's hope Will Smith dongs one for us tonight. Very confident that he's going to come through for us as our 3rd and final dong play. All we need is one of these guys to hit a home run, and we will be profitable for the day. If we can get multiple to hit a home run like we did yesterday, we will be very profitable. And if we get all 3, we will be rich, and we'll have done a very, very good job getting a nice dent into our losses on the year. So let's hope for a 3-for-3 day. And that's it from the dong department. Now we move on to the whiff department, where, again, I got 3 more strikeout props for you guys, and we can just get right into it. First up, Pirates versus Blue Jays game. I'm taking Quinn Priester under 3.5 strikeouts, -106 odds at FanDuel. So the Blue Jays bats, they got dominated yesterday. So admittedly, you're going to see that and you're going to say, well, that's not great. That feels a little bit scary. But the reality is, if you look at the Blue Jays bats in general, and even if you look at the last 2 weeks, which includes yesterday's poor performance, they are a very, very low strikeout team. They're also going up against a horrible strikeout pitcher. So because of those 2 things, I'm comfortable taking Quinn Priester's under against the Blue Jays today. Again, even if you include yesterday's pretty gross 8 strikeout performance against Mitch Keller of the Pirates, the Blue Jays still have the 3rd lowest team strikeout rate against right-handed pitching in the entire MLB. Again, this is over the last 2 weeks, 18.6%. That's a very low number, 3rd lowest in the MLB. If you look at the entire season, they're striking out 19.6% of the time. That's still a pretty good number. So it's not like this is just a recent thing for the Blue Jays. And that would be the 6th lowest team strikeout rate in the entire MLB. So still good over still good over the season. Even better over the last 2 weeks. And if you look at their lineup, they only have 2 guys in their projected 9-man lineup for today that is considered a strikeout guy, which means he strikes out 27.5% of the time or higher than that. And only one of those guys strikes out over 30% of the time. You compare that to the next two teams we're going to talk about, and we'll see just how few strikeout guys the Blue Jays have. And then from there, they have one guy that strikes out 25% of the time or worse. Everybody else is below 20%, which is crazy. So two guys that you can consider a strikeout guy, one guy that's below average in terms of being a strikeout guy, and then everybody else is below average, meaning they never strike out. So I guess above average from a strikeout perspective. They never strike out. So yeah, if he just strikes out one of those three guys one time, that's fine, because probably nobody else is going to strike out from there. And if you look at Quinn Priester, he's got terrible strikeout stuff. He's only made 5 starts on the year, but in those 5 starts, he's only gone over this number twice. He has a strikeout rate of 13.8%. That is horribly, laughably bad. That would tie him with Patrick Corbin for the second lowest strikeout rate in the entire MLB. Patrick Corbin is not a pitcher you want to be tied with when it comes to strikeouts. So yeah, 3.5 strikeouts is low, but it's low for a good reason, and I think it's going to go under. That's our first play. Next up, Rangers versus Marlins game. I'm taking Trevor Rogers over 4.5 strikeouts plus 120 odds at DraftKings. So this one is definitely going to feel a little bit scary, 100%. I'll go ahead and label this my Pepto play of the day because we are taking a bad pitcher in Trevor Rogers going up against what is thought of to be a scary offense in the Rangers. But the thing is, number one, bad pitchers can rack up strikeouts. And more importantly, the Rangers offense is not what you think this season, and especially not what you think against left-handed pitching. Over the last 2 weeks, the Rangers have legitimately the highest team strikeout rate in the entire MLB against left-handed pitching. They're up to 29.2% team strikeout rate against lefties. A horrible number. The only team above 29%, granted it's slightly above 29%, but still above 29%. Really, really bad. And it's not like the Rangers have been crushing left-handed pitching either. They have the 6th lowest WRC plus against left-handed pitching. So they're striking out a lot, and they're also just not performing that well. So yeah, Rogers is not a good pitcher, but the Rangers offense is not good against left-handed pitching, and then they also strike out a ton. Looking at Trevor Rogers, he cashed this in 3 of his first 4 starts. Since then, he's only done it in 1 of 7. So as I mentioned, it's definitely going to feel a little bit scary. But what we're doing here is we're just fading the Rangers, who I think are still getting too much love and respect because of how good they were last year. Over the last 2 weeks, the Rangers have 4 guys in their lineup that strike out over 40% of the time against left-handed pitching. And then another guy who strikes out over 30% of the time. And if you look at their leadoff man, Marcus Semien, he strikes out 27% of the time against left-handed pitching. That is 6 guys in their lineup that strike out 27% or worse, 4 that strike out 40% or worse, and then another guy above 50%. It's just horrible how often that these guys have been striking out. And yes, one of the people, you're going to look at this and you're going to say, well, they've seen some really good pitchers. That's why they've struck out a ton. That's fine. Those pitchers got to double digits. We just need Rogers to get to 5, to get to half that. And I think he can get there against a pretty bad Rangers offense. That's our second pick. Third up, final pick of the entire video. Rays versus Orioles game. Cole Irvin over 4.5 strikeouts plus 122 odds at FanDuel. This time we're fading another offense that stinks. This time we are fading the Tampa Bay Rays, which, yeah, they don't strike out as much as the Rangers. They also aren't that far behind. They have a team strikeout rate of 28.8% over the last 2 weeks. That's the second highest in the MLB. Again, only higher than the Rangers. The Rangers are the only team that strikes out more frequently, I should say, than the Rays against left-handed pitching. And the Rays are similar to the Rangers in that they also stink against left-handed pitching as well. So I don't really expect Cole Irvin to get shelled or anything like that. The Rays have the 5th worst WRC plus against lefties over the last 2 weeks. So they're 1 spot worse than the Rangers. So they're 1 spot worse as a batting team in general against lefties. And they also strike out 1 spot worse than the Rangers as well. And looking at the Rays, they have 5 guys in their lineup that have struck out over 30% of the time or more against left-handed pitching over the last 2 weeks. That includes 3 of them that have actually struck out 50% of the time or higher. Granted, it's a small sample size, especially with left-handed pitching. Looking at 2 weeks is always going to be a small sample size, but these teams have been striking out a ton. These guys have been striking out a ton against left-handed pitching. And if you look at the entire season, the Rays have a team strikeout rate of 26% against lefties, which is the third worst in the MLB. So it's not like this is a recent thing for the Rays or anything like that. This is similar to the Trevor Rogers one in that Cole Irvin does not have a high hit rate. He's only hit this in 3 of his 10 starts on the year. That means we're getting a good price just when you look at that win percentage. And then also, he in 3 of the starts that he went under, he had exactly 4 strikeouts. So he just needed one more to cash this over for us. Granted, with low numbers like strikeouts, there are always going to be situations where the pitcher or whatever was 1 away. But against the Rays, that should equal 1 strikeout above his average. So hopefully that happens and he cashes this over for us. And that's all we got. 3 strikeout props, 3 home run props. So 6 total props for you guys to lock in. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Make sure to check out the Doug Club if you're interested. I appreciate everybody for watching and have a good one.